For centuries, scientists and evolutionary theorists were confounded by a particular mystery. Why do women lose their fertility at midlife, yet go on to live another 30, 40, even 50 years? Darwin himself couldn't explain it. Many assumed women outlived their biological expiry date by accident, evolutionary leftovers with no functional role after reproduction. That framing has stuck around far too long. But the truth is, those thinkers were short-sighted. They lacked the imagination to see the full picture. Because without midlife women, this world would quite literally stop spinning. There's something called theory of mind, the ability to perceive what others are thinking, to intuit what they are feeling, to hold another person's perspective, even when it's wildly different from your own. It's what allows for empathy. And in my view, empathy is what holds this planet together, especially in a world that's as fractured and fast-moving as ours. So what does empathy, or theory of mind, have to do with midlife women? Everything. You see, our brains evolve through phases. At 3 different stages of our lives, our brains undergo profound rewiring. Pruning old connections, building more efficient new ones, and reconfiguring the networks that govern emotional regulation, social awareness, and intuitive intelligence. Can you guess what those 3 stages are? You guessed it. Puberty, pregnancy, and perimenopause. According to neuroscientist Dr. Lisa Mosconi, these are not phases of decline, they are phases of upgrade. While the world focuses on fertility loss, the female brain is sharpening at perimenopause and menopause, becoming leaner, smarter, and more socially and emotionally attuned. This is the hidden brilliance of the menopausal brain. It doesn't mark the end of relevance. It marks the beginning of a new kind of mastery. This perplexing event that every woman goes through at midlife, called menopause, isn't an isolated event. It's part of a hormonal continuum that includes puberty and pregnancy. Dr. Mosconi thinks that the 3 Ps, this puberty, the pregnancy, and perimenopause, are unique to women and uniquely evolved to help us with each stage of life. So, coming back to the theory of mind and its connection with empathy, it is the ability to understand others' thoughts, feelings, and intentions. And this is what intersects with empathy in powerful ways during the 3 major neuroendocrine transitions in a woman's life. The 3 that we keep talking about: puberty, pregnancy, and perimenopause. Each transition recalibrates the social brain, and theory of mind capacity may shift, expand, or even constrict depending on context, depending on hormones, stress load, and life history. So let's talk about puberty first. This is where we see an awakening of empathy. There is a huge hormonal shift. We see surges in estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, and oxytocin. Many brain regions are involved, including prefrontal cortex, amygdala, temporoparietal junction, medial prefrontal cortex, all essential to theory of mind and social cognition. So, what is the role of theory of mind and empathy? In adolescence, what happens is teenage girls show increased mentalizing, the ability to imagine others' internal states. This heightened theory of mind aligns with the evolutionary imperative to form peer bonds, assess social standing, and navigate increasingly complex emotional terrain. Girls tend to outperform boys in empathy and theory of mind tasks during adolescence, possibly due to earlier maturation of social brain networks and estrogen's modulation of oxytocin pathways. So, what is the implication? The implication is that puberty opens a neurological sensitive period for social learning. This is also where relational trauma, for example, peer rejection, family conflict, or social messaging around female roles, can become deeply embedded, shaping adult empathic patterns. That said, puberty doesn't come without cost. This neurological rewiring is associated with increased vulnerability to depression, anxiety, brain fog, temperature dysregulation, and other transient symptoms. We recognize this in adolescence, but we don't always connect it with similar transitions later in life. Now, let's shift to pregnancy. Again, there's a hormonal surge. Estrogen skyrockets, progesterone balloons. This doesn't just affect hair and skin. Brain cells also respond powerfully. Some neurons actually get stronger. There is significant rewiring in the maternal brain, what we often refer to colloquially as the mommy brain. But here's what's fascinating. At this time, the brain shrinks again. Postpartum, the brain either grows back a bit or plateaus in its new configuration. Many women experience brain fog, anxiety, and reduced focus during this time. We often pathologize these changes or view them as a loss. But what we forget is the immense functional gains that occur with these shifts. The same brain that feels foggy is now capable of waking at 3 a.m., nursing a baby, and answering emails all in one complex coordinated system. This is neurological specialization in action. So in pregnancy, we see a remodeling of empathy for motherhood. In terms of hormonal shifts, we see massive increases in estradiol, progesterone, oxytocin, and prolactin. There's synaptic pruning in the DMN, or the default mode network regions tied to social cognition. So what is the role of theory of mind and empathy here? Brain changes during pregnancy support enhanced social attunement to infant cues like facial expressions, vocal tone, and body language. Functional MRI studies show increased activity in regions associated with empathy and theory of mind, including the medial prefrontal cortex and superior temporal sulcus. Oxytocin enhances emotional salience of social stimuli, making mothers more sensitive to others' needs, particularly their babies. So, the implication here is theory of mind becomes selectively tuned, less general, more focused on infant-centric empathy. So this fine-tuned bias is adaptive for caregiving, but may reduce bandwidth for non-infant related social needs, like a partner's emotional complexity. And now we get to perimenopause and menopause. The same system shifts again. Another phase of pruning, rewiring, and neurological reconfiguration. Yes, fertility ends, but it is reductive and misguided to define women solely by that loss. Women become grandmothers and help raise their grandkids. Many continue to work and start new ventures and endeavors, adding immense value to society and culture. In Western society, menopause is often framed as the end of fertility and the beginning of old age and even irrelevance, which is nothing but dismissive and nonsensical. There is so much more to a woman than her reproductive capacity. And today, the vast majority of women live 30 or more years beyond menopause. That's an entire life stage, potentially a third of our lives or more, in which we are post-reproductive but still metabolically, cognitively, and emotionally alive, growing and evolving. So, menopause is not a decline, it's a transition, one with its own neurological blueprint, its own adaptive intelligence. Just like puberty in pregnancy, it brings some challenges, yes, of course, but it also brings with it new capabilities, reorganization, and resilience. And we need to start honoring that reality, not pathologizing it. So, in perimenopause, the empathy can be viewed as an empathic overload, a withdrawal, or a transmutation. There's huge hormonal shifts, there's fluctuations and eventual decline in estrogen, progesterone, and oxytocin. In terms of brain effects, we see increased limbic reactivity in the amygdala, impaired prefrontal regulation, disrupted default mode network connectivity, which can go on for many years, then stabilize at a lower level for some women, while it will return to close to premenopausal level for others. Now, particularly if perimenopause is addressed timely with food, exercise, hormones, lifestyle, etc., many women find the time after menopause to be the most liberating. Menopausal women report being much happier and more satisfied in their lives than premenopausal women. part of this may be the changes that occur in the brain that lead to them having zero tolerance for nonsense or irrelevance. At this time, what is the role of theory of mind and empathy? Many women report increased irritability, emotional rawness, or withdrawal from social obligations, sometimes actually interpreted as a loss of empathy. In reality, however, perimenopause may represent a shift from externally oriented empathy, people-pleasing, overfunctioning, to internal clarity. Theory of mind may remain intact, but emotional boundaries tighten. Declining oxytocin may reduce compulsive caretaking. This creates space for wise empathy, empathy with discernment, rooted in a clearer sense of self. So, perimenopause may feel like an empathic collapse, but it is often an evolution into self-directed theory of mind, recognizing one's own needs, stories, and internal states as equally worthy of care. So, empathy isn't just a soft skill, it's a form of intelligence, one that midlife and older women often come to embody more deeply than ever before. Through the hormonal transitions of puberty, pregnancy, and finally perimenopause, the female brain reorganizes not just for efficiency, but for relational depth. It becomes exquisitely tuned to the needs, signals, and emotional currents of others in society. And this isn't accidental, it's adaptive. It's the brain making space for wisdom. Midlife women often carry a kind of social intuition that is hard-won and neurologically real. While their estrogen levels may be declining, their ability to see multiple perspectives, to guide conflict toward resolution, to sit in complexity without flinching, that only grows. This is mature empathy, not the reactive kind, but the practiced, seasoned, regulated kind. The kind that knows how to hold space, the kind that keeps families connected, teams functioning, communities intact. In traditional cultures, this is why post-reproductive women become elders, advisors, and moral anchors. In modern Western culture, however, we've kind of ignored and pathologized the very stage of life when this kind of social cognition is blooming. We've treated menopause as a deficit, when in truth it's a design, an evolutionary handoff from reproductive labor to relational leadership. Women in midlife and beyond are the emotional architects of society. They see what others miss. They feel what others won't say. And increasingly, the science is catching up to what we already know deep down. Empathy doesn't end with age. It becomes sharper, more discerning, and more essential. So, if you're asking what midlife post-reproductive women are for, the answer is right in front of us. We are the keepers of connection. We are the ones who understand without needing to be told. We are the reason the world still has a chance to heal. So, if you like what I share here, please like, subscribe, and share. Let me know if there are specific things you'd like me to talk about. And finally, I am writing a book on brain and hormonal health for midlife women. If you'd like to know when it is published, please subscribe to my email list. All links are in the show notes. Until next time.